Hey, and welcome back into the den. Today we talk about quite a controversial topic, but one which influences every aspect of our lives: social media. Through this episode, I want you to consider both sides of the argument and decide whether we actually do need to switch off more. Social media dictates so much of our lives today, as we must ensure that everything is Insta-worthy. When we consider the social media debate, people immediately draw to the negativity. And even though social media poses lots of issues, positivity is still present on this platform. It brings communities together, empowers people, and allows people across the globe to be connected by the click of a button. It allows someone from thousands of miles away to feel as if they're in the room next to us. So, guys, let's start the episode with actually a positive spin for a change. How would you praise the power of social media?
I think that social media has allowed people, especially young people, to become a lot more aware and a lot more involved in social and political issues. We are now able to, through things like Twitter and Instagram, see these huge acts going on other sides of the world that we wouldn't know of and talk about our opinion on them. So things I'm thinking of immediately are the Black Lives Matter movement, which was predominantly American-based.
It's more like knowledge and empowerment in a way.
Yeah, and we can talk on it and we can put pressure on it, and
pressure is so important.
Exactly. It's just, if it wasn't for social media, we'd never know how to make our voices heard.
That's exactly, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is making the power heard. And pressure might feel like a bit like, oh, I'm coming down on your shoulders like pressure, but it's not, because without pressure you're not gonna feel like you need to change, so then you won't do anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think our just awareness of current events, even so political events aside, things like when COVID happened, we all got to watch the first wave in Italy. We all watched it rip through China. We all watched all of these things happen, and
blissfully unaware of what was to come next for us.
We had a bit of an inkling, because we watched we were all during March thinking, oh, is the government going to lock down? They really should. They're not going to. And we were able to equip ourselves with the knowledge we needed to protect ourselves before our government gave it to us. And I think if it wasn't for having social media and being able to talk to people in other countries who've had different situations, we might have had it a lot worse when it hit us.
Because we started to get a little bit of knowledge on how they dealt with it and what would work and
we were a bit more cautious, I think.
We were,
I do remember, like, my school closed before the first lockdown. We had school trips cancelled in March, way before lockdown. But the fact that we were able to do that, I think it reduced the risk quite a lot. Yeah,
but I still think we're still learning from it, and it could have been dealt
a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. But we move on. Oh, how would you praise the power of social media?
I think it's a really good environment to foster creativity. Like, if you're creative, or you do anything creative, like, for example, Lana, you do crocheting, like, it's really easy to share your creative ventures.
It's nothing wrong with we praise you for it. We do not disdain you for it. Not a chance.
No, of course not. No, but it's really easy to connect with like-minded people, isn't it? So, I think that is really good as well. And also, aside from creativity, it's like enables the spread of knowledge. It's like content creators that educate others. There's lots of them. Yeah. And I think social media is really good to now enable them to educate people about.
And it also, like, the creative industries are growing. Like, they're one of the most sought after industries currently. And through the media, you're able to just show, like, everyone's just creativity and, like, all the different things they do. Like, obviously Olivia has her photography account, and, like, I know people who have art accounts. Like, one of my friends who like has a digital art account, so it's like all the different types, and it's like got loads of different accounts, but it should all be just promoted to show the different types.
And I think, on the topic of education, I don't really... It's hard to comprehend how, like, mad it is that we can literally go on our phone and we can learn about anything, really, if we want to.
It's actually mad when you think
it is, and like, from anywhere. Yeah, like, you could be talking to someone from the Philippines
Yeah, or we can just go and we can Google, like we can learn a language, we could learn stuff that people would have to go to university to learn
literally.
Yeah, exactly.
20, 30 years ago.
And it's just the world adapting. So like obviously you've got like the open university now for people who have jobs but then still want to pursue, like I know someone, I served someone the other day, he was just there having his dinner, chilling. He was like, yeah, I'm just doing a degree in maths in my spare time. I was like, I was like, you have spare time to do a degree but in maths? I praise you for that, because honestly, not a chance. But it is good to praise the social media, because sometimes I feel like people automatically go bullying, criticism and all of that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that is true as well, but the addiction and obsession I think is why it controls and leads so much of our lives. And it's like people only post for good parts of their life, and we just start to develop to see a morphed version of what reality actually is. We fail to see when people cry, which happens all the time for me, I'm not even gonna lie. And down days, or when we have a failure and we don't succeed, and we just see a constant feed of people living their best life, which I'm putting in inverted commas here because really, but just think about what they don't post on their story. Think about what is edited out. What are they doing then? Because all you see is one moment, that photo when it's captured. Like behind the scenes, when you see like a friend meet up with another friend, they could just be on their phones constantly, and then they take that one photo and they're like, oh my god, it's so perfect.
And then you look at it and you think, that,
yeah, exactly.
they've got the perfect friendship. I wish I had that. But
It isn't. Exactly. You don't see it, and we refuse to see how social media has such this limited perspective, and the truth is like so much broader. And I just believe this has developed into a competition of wanting to have a slightly better life than that one person, and just to make yourself feel better. But it's so morally wrong. I don't understand how we don't see that, and it's just making society fray, and we need to cut off the like toxicity and just embark on accepting who we are and what our life is, the positive and the negative. So what do you guys think is the reason social media has developed into this competition essentially?
There's just so much social pressure that just goes hand in hand. It looks like it's really hard to separate social pressure from social media. It's like an intrinsic part of it. So it's like that can manifest in lots of different ways, like people feeling like they have to post really often to, I don't know, please their audience.
Yeah, it's always like the focus on the likes. And I'm like, does that really matter?
Yeah, and like, who are we like fooling? We're 17. We don't have an audience. Like,
Exactly.
So we feel like we've got to please someone.
We're not an influencer.
No.
Like, it doesn't matter. No one cares what we had for breakfast.
No.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. No one cares what we had at the bicycle shop. But also, like, aside from posting really often, it's like constantly thinking, is this Instagram worthy?
Yeah.
Is this, I don't know. It's like, is it picturesque enough? Is it, I don't know, am I living my best life, or can I take a picture of this, make it better?
Like,
It's
why
just,
do we question it? Like, if we think it's good, social media just needs to be empowering yourself and empowering like what you want to post. It shouldn't be dictated by someone else.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of has got into that, because we're like, if we post this, will people like it? Surely it should just be posting it for yourself.
Yeah.
Especially like with if like you post yourself, or like there are accounts where they post themselves, like, and they only post their positive side. It's a very limited view of that person.
Yeah.
So it's a warped reality. I'd
It
say.
is very, very warped. So what would you say, Lana, is the reason this competition has developed?
I think that in order to figure out the reason as to why it's developed, we need to kind of look at how it started. And for me personally, I blame famous people.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay.
I blame people who are rich and who are privileged and who might actually be living something very close to these aspirational lives that we all secretly want.
Yeah.
I think that influencers and celebrities rising on social media has given us all such a warped view of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And I think that's what we base all of this off.
Yeah.
The lives of rich, privileged people who have lots more material wealth than we'll ever have put together, and who have lots more opportunities than we will all ever have.
Yeah, I would say before the invention of social media, it was like they were more removed from us.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that constant bombardment all the time, did we? Like,
And it was more of a kind of a dream, and you'd kind of think about it but not obsess over it. But now we see it all the time, we crave it more, which has kind of got a bit more, it's more dangerous now, I think. Like wanting something which is practically impossible.
Yeah.
And constantly just focusing your life on that rather than improving yourself is not actually that good.
No.
Yeah. And also, like, before social media, like, when people would hear about celebrities, more was open to the imagination, whereas
Yes.
when you can actually see, like, every
Yeah.
aspect of their life, it kind of feels more immutable. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really,
Yeah.
it's like,
They always say, like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't meet your idols.
No.
And I think, I don't know, like, I don't think I have one set idol. I think probably the most important person who I look up to is just probably my mum. And I know
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
cliche, but the stuff she's gone through and the perseverance and resilience and the determination she just shows, like being a single parent with 2 kids,
Yeah.
like fighting just to have the best life she can for us
Yeah.
3, it just proves. I don't think I have really a celebrity I look up to instead, because I think I just see it all in her instead.
I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that we are surrounded by, in our actual physical real lives, all of these really positive,
Yeah,
inspirational
exactly.
people, but yet we're all looking online, looking at celebrities and thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be like them, I want to be like that
Yeah.
supermodel, I want to be like that singer, when in reality our teachers are
Best friends.
amazing,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
parents are amazing, our siblings, just people we meet every day.
Exactly.
And I think it's really sad. I know I've definitely gone through times where I idolize people that I've never met, people
Oh, yeah,
that I see online,
definitely,
because
obviously.
you get this kind of idea that you know them
Yeah.
through just looking at social media, but as we've discussed, it's not representative of them as people. It's not an honest view of their lives,
It's
but
a-
we still feel like we know them from that warped, twisted
Yeah.
reality that
Yeah.
they choose to show us.
So why else do you think social media is so competition driven?
The same as Earl, it's the feeling the need to live up to what your peers are doing,
Yeah.
feeling the need to outdo everyone, like prove to everyone that you are happy, you are having
Yeah.
a good time.
Why do you have to
are,
prove that you're
you are
happy?
succeeding, or on the other side, proving that you've struggled to get where you are. You've worked so
Yeah.
hard. You've
I
pushed
deserve
yourself.
this.
You've been
Yeah.
through so much struggle to get to where you are. When in reality, we're all young. We've all gone through struggle. We haven't really done that much.
We're
Like,
just still going.
what are we proving to people?
Exactly,
Really?
yeah.
Like, it's very easy to get caught up in the cycle. I know we all do.
Yeah.
But also taking a look back on it, it's so silly.
It is. But I think the worst consequence to develop from social media is the damaging barriers of like beauty standards. So social media shows you need to be a certain size, a certain height and appearance in order to basically be accepted. But it's caused people to feel as if they constantly need to change what they look like to fit in, and like the fear of being alienated. For women to have body hair, and why do men have to be muscly, and why are we seen as sloppy for wanting to go out in a tracksuit? Surely we can just wear whatever we feel comfortable in. So why do you think these beauty standards have developed into such a damaging part of society?
I think it's damaging us because it's not realistic.
No, it's
If
not.
it was something that was attainable, if it was possible
Not
to
attainable.
achieve these
Oof.
things, then I think it wouldn't be as damaging, because it would be people work hard, they achieve the perfect body image that they want. But in reality, it's a mixture of filters, angles, plastic surgery,
Photoshop,
all working
yeah.
together to create these fake idols that look nothing like that in person.
No.
And sometimes when you see a picture of a celebrity that's not edited, or from maybe not their preferred angle, you don't even recognise
No,
them.
you don't.
Like, recently I was looking at some pictures of the Kardashians which
Oh,
weren't
yeah, yeah.
photoshopped,
Yeah.
and they look nothing
Nothing
like
like
what's
them.
on their
I
accounts. And
know.
it almost looks like in videos especially, their faces were surgically enhanced to look good in photos.
Yeah.
But in videos you can see kind of it's almost like they've manufactured themselves.
I just think like there is no one size and shape of beauty. Like it's impossible for everyone to look the same, because all our bodies function differently. We all have different reactions, and if we all ate the same, did the same things and were identical, we'd still all look different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
like-
still expect us to all be the same.
Yeah, it's like everyone's body has its own level of health.
Exactly, yeah. And we all still think if we do this and do this, we would all be these beautiful people who look the same. It's not going to happen.
And then we see celebrities doing on like Vogue their morning routine of, I wake up and I drink a smoothie with the blood of children, and then I go and I run around in my massive garden in my designer shoes, and then I go and
my tiny sports bra.
And my tiny sports bra, and then I go and my personal chef douses me in the elixir of youth, and then I go and I do nothing, and then I go home and I go to sleep, and I'm so happy. You need to be like me, do everything I do, and you will be all of this.
Perfect.
But it's
so fake.
so stupid.
Yeah. So what would you say, is the reason of these beauty standards?
Just how ubiquitous they are, just how much we see them all the time. This has just come about with the invention of social media, to be honest, and also like the relationship between adverts and corporate culture and that has with social media. Like when you watch TV, you see adverts. Obviously, you don't like watch adverts quite as much as you could go on social media, perhaps. But it's like they have a relationship because like what is on social media is perhaps what is popular.
And that's what's going to be shown.
That's what's going to be shown in adverts. But then people are going to buy those things in the adverts, and then that's going to feed back into social media.
It's just a constant cycle of just being constantly shown everything.
And it's like you're being bullied into having to buy yourself into being better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But like I said, for me, beauty is not one defined image, and we all have our own version, and social media has morphed us into thinking we need to change. And no surprise, we're all just seen for our looks. And this is the least interesting about us. Like, what have we achieved? What about what we love? What are our passions, our loves, our dislikes? Why do we need to conform to these images? And who decided this was beautiful? So why do you think this image of beauty has developed?
I think there are innumerable reasons. So I'll just talk about one or two. But I think it's very much a racist standard, because throughout history, I don't know, at least the history of the British Empire, there's just been a Eurocentric standard of beauty. It's just like light skin, so like white people are made out to be the best, or the beauty standard,
the absolute pinnacle.
Yeah, exactly. And that still feeds down into colorism.
Yeah.
And colorism has been going on all over the world, but it was like cemented by the invasion, by like countries being invaded by the British Empire, and so since that's just been cemented, we just see that
as beauty,
and like that's just kind of evolved nowadays as something much more sinister and subtle, if you know what I mean.
I do get what you mean. What would you say, Lana, is this beauty?
I would say it's a mixture of racism and classism kind of at its core. One of the most interesting stories on the topic I've read is all throughout history, especially in kind of Victorian, Edwardian Regency. It was seen, if you had tanned skin, that you were viewed as poor, because it was a sign that you were working outside in the sun, whereas if you were pale, it was a sign that you were indoors and you were privileged. You didn't have to work. And so it's kind of almost become a mark of like, if you've got darker skin, you're stained, you're not worthy of, or you're not part of the upper class. And I think it's just continued, but it's kind of subliminal now, because obviously I hope that no one actually thinks that now, but we see in adverts and just in representation, it's still almost, there's sometimes subtle racism.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I remember watching a Nivea advert a few years ago, it was meant to be about a cleanser, and it was meant to be advertising women use this cleanser and then they're clean, and it used loads of different women, and it would be like, it was like every frame it was a different woman, but they were doing the same action. It was kind of like a time lapse of all of them getting ready, and there was a lady of colour washed her face, and then it cut to a white woman, and it almost was suggesting you need to like clean yourself.
That is weird.
And I watched it and I just thought that's not right.
It just makes you feel a bit uncomfortable.
It's just a bit strange, and I shudder to think that maybe really young children who see that and loads of other things, and it kind of plants a seed in their head.
I get what you mean, but it's just like this racism has existed for so long, and it may not be as obvious now, but it does still exist and morph our way into our society. But this may seem quite controversial, but sometimes people may think that women have it harder for these standards to conform to on social media. For me, I believe people immediately assume that we do, but men do have their own standard the media have created for them to feel obliged to. So women are expected to have the smallest waist, the best skin, and never even mention cellulite, even though that's completely normal. Men are expected to be toned and muscular, otherwise they get thrown into the category of having a dad bod. So what do you two think of this?
I mean, I think that both sexes have it as hard as each other.
Yeah.
If you're female presenting, you're expected to look unrealistically thin and always look put together. Whereas if you're male presenting, you have to live up to expectations set by people who have a personal trainer, a special expensive diet, or they use steroids, and then both will edit their photos. And the two shared features of both sexes and their standards is this editing photos. I think that's the biggest problem. But it also, I think that the topic is now more centered on women. There's a lot more body positivity content focused on women, and I'm not sure if that's because men are less likely to express how they feel, as we discussed last time. But I think that, well, as someone who doesn't identify as a man, I can't say for sure where this comes from. But I look at things like superhero films, and there's actors in their 30s and 40s, and they look like they're in better shape than most men will ever get in their 20s. And it's like, how is that setting a good model for young men? How is that making older men feel?
Yeah, exactly. Sums it up.
I would say there are different expectations at either end of the gender spectrum.
Definitely, yeah.
And society, first of all, society doesn't really accept stuff that's in the middle. So, you have to be at the extreme end of one, or the extreme end of the other. So, for example, but I think there are quite different expectations. For example, expectations of femininity. I feel like the subject of weight is treated much more harshly, or at least in a different way to the way it's talked about, in the context of masculinity. Because it's just about, I don't know how much weight you have, or whether you fit into this item of clothing, or men don't seem to face the same kind of talk about it, do they? I would say. But I suppose the difference with masculinity, it's kind of more lenient in that respect, but then there's also the very toxic idea of an ideal masculine body, just unrealistically, I don't know, toned, and I don't know, just it's just it feeds into a lot of body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
That causes so many mental health problems, and also it's really toxically competitive.
Yes.
It's just people constantly competing for each other to be I don't like these words, but the alpha and beta.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Hate it. But it's just superior versus inferior.
Yeah,
it's just
it's a competition always.
I think it mirrors in a way the situation with women, that men are putting each other down by saying you're inferior, I'm superior. The same as women might say,
are the worst for it.
I'm thin, you're not, I'm better because of that. I think there's more similarities between the standards and pressures than we acknowledge.
Yeah, there is.
And I think that there isn't enough talk between both sexes about the pressures that they face, because I think that the solutions to all of our problems will come together. They will be one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we work together enough.
No, we don't. We definitely don't. But I think one way that we can change this and start to become more positive is just self-acceptance. Not even just self-love, which people may find hard, just accepting who you are. We just need to embrace our bodies and who we are, accept them for what they are, and just love them. Just think of them, all the things they can do. They make us think. We run, we dance, we like walk, they're our home, and we actually need to look after them as much as we look after our surroundings and those around us. So you live in your body, so why would you want it to be essentially dirty with the toxicity of social media standards? And we all have our beauty in our own ways, and it's better to embrace the diversity of those around us and celebrate it instead of constantly comparing and competing. There's nothing you need to essentially fix in yourself, and just think of your younger self and your best friend. You wouldn't tolerate this behaviour towards them, so why do you allow yourselves to experience it? So what do you think we need to do to break away from the barriers of social media?
First of all, be honest with yourself about what accounts aren't bringing your social media life or your life in general any value, and just don't be afraid to unfollow them. It's not like it's not like they'll be hurt.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's like a massive
They
account
won't
with millions
care,
of followers.
yeah.
Like, they're not going to care
No.
whether you unfollow them or not. But just if they aren't bringing your social media life any value, especially if they're being a detriment to your mental health, don't be afraid to let those go. Get them out of your life.
Yeah.
And in their place, perhaps you could follow more accounts that celebrate everyone's bodies,
Yeah.
like in all their diversity, and just, I don't know, promote more positivity.
Just
I'd
turn it
say.
into a celebration rather than competition, I
Exactly.
think. So how would you sum it up, Lana?
I think that we need to follow realistic examples. So
Yeah.
we talked about Nellie London a few
Yeah.
weeks ago. I think that she perfectly sums up
She does.
the acceptance and the self-love that we all need to strive for. I think instead of looking up to people like the Kardashians, who have these seemingly perfect bodies,
Yeah.
quote unquote, or who have these unrealistic standards, if we idolize someone who loves themselves for who they are, we will love ourselves
Exactly.
the way we
It's
are.
replicating what we see.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone who meets these unrealistic
No.
body standards. So it's nice to remind myself that all of my friends are beautiful, but none
Yeah.
of us look like this. So why
No.
do I think this is
Exactly,
beautiful?
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
exactly.
Yeah.
We still see everyone who don't look like what we expect to be beautiful, but we still think they are. So why do we not think that ourselves are? If you know what I mean? We're all different, but that should be celebrated, not criticised. And it's like, we don't need to glow up. We just need to just stop comparing constantly. And self-love is just forgiving ourselves, setting boundaries and realising what your body needs and responding to this. And it seems hard, but the first step is always the hardest. Once we accept ourselves, stop the war against ourselves and embrace reality, the toxicity of social media will be completely eradicated, essentially, and the beauty of self-care will blossom. So we need to make times for ourselves, embrace what makes us happy, and practice this on the road to self-acceptance. For me, it's like you said, Lana, following accounts which show reality have helped me. We may feel like we need to follow accounts which explicitly show body positivity, but it's just embracing and following accounts which show that lives aren't always Insta-worthy, and they make us feel good, and they show the reality of ups and downs. So what do you guys do to realise the reality of the media instead?
I mean, as I said, I seek out realistic expectations and people who present realistic lives. But I also try to only really follow people I know in real life. I do follow some celebrities and some brands, but I do try to limit it to the people I know.
That's a good
because
idea.
I hope I know that none of my peers have had plastic surgery or are doing juice cleanses. So it's nice to be able to see someone's picture on social media and think, oh, I know you. I know you look like that.
Yeah.
And I see you in real life and you look like that.
Yeah.
And you're beautiful. And it's really refreshing
Yeah.
to see that. And also, it's a lot more of a positive experience on social media when you're scrolling through your Instagram feed and it's people that you know, and it's nice
refreshing,
to
yeah.
see when they succeed.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to think, instead of, oh, a celebrity won an award, nice to be able to see, oh, Sophie is on the radio. That's so lovely. That makes me so happy because I know her and I'm invested in what she does. It's a lot more fulfilling than watching a celebrity get a slot on a radio show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a lot more emotional connection.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Other people-
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I would say I just like to follow accounts that are like art or I don't know, scenery or
Yeah.
just like something that's not people based. So like the scope for that culture of toxic body negativity isn't there.
Sums up quite well. But it's clear how we all have our own versions of beauty and we need to embrace this. For me, we need to realise that if you are trying to be normal, whatever normal is, you will never know how amazing you really are. So how would you two sum up the beauty of the individual?
I would say it's a really hard question to answer, but I think the bottom line is beauty is subjective, and there is no such thing as objective beauty.
Yeah.
Like there can be beauty that like lots of society thinks is beautiful, or there can be beauty that the people in power, or the I don't know, the patriarchy, or the, I don't know, straight heteronormative culture, or whatever, the straight triarchy thinks is beautiful in some way. But the bottom line is beauty is what it means to you, and that applies to yourself as well. Like, you are what you mean to yourself.
Yeah,
if that
definitely.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you think you're beautiful, then you are.
Yeah, and if we do have that confidence, then it will be reflected out in us, and you can tell. And I think like having that confidence in yourself is more beautiful than buying yourself a nice outfit. And because if you don't feel happy in it, you can tell. It's so obvious. So it's just having that acceptance and happiness in yourself will be reflected.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But how would you sum it up, Lana?
Well, my older sister once told me there is nothing sexier than your authentic truth, and
I like that.
Your older sister's so cool.
I think it's very, very cool, and I'd like her to know that. And it always reminds me that the honest version of myself is the most beautiful, and that if I'm faking and trying to be something I'm not in order to be beautiful, that's just counterproductive.
And people can tell.
And people can tell.
They can tell.
And I'd like to, and also the fact that she told me that, and that matters to me a lot, that she wants me to be my authentic self. And
exactly.
if I'm not going to do it for myself, I'll do it for her.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then eventually one day I will be doing it for myself.
Exactly, and it's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to take time, but you'll get there eventually. But thank you so much for tuning in again and taking another visit into the den, and I hope you now realise that you have got your own beauty in your own way. And always remember, be so full that even if they take and take, you're still overflowing. And consider if you do need to unplug yourself and embrace your own reality for a change. And it's time to keep your voice roaring, embrace the beauty of the individual, and we'll see you again next week to allow the journey of empowerment to progress. And in the words of Marilyn Monroe, you're the beautiful one, it's society who's ugly.